Welcome to Aquarian Anarchy. This is going to be a little special edition of it tonight. You'll notice that Chad couldn't make it. He had some other obligations he had to fulfill. But Nicco and I are going to talk about the about what happened this weekend. We're going to talk about the symbolism of Halloween and how we get down with Good Day. But we'll get to that in a second. So our quote for today is from none other than Bob Rastafarian. He says, "This is your world. You're the creator. Find freedom on the canvas. Believe that you can do it, because you can do it." Bob Ross. How you doing there, Nicco?
I'm solid. I can't complain. Had a very interesting experience this particular past week. I got to kick it with Marcus. It was actually really dope. I enjoyed the whole experience. And the ambiance, getting to meet my other co-host finally. Now it's just time for me, you, and Chad to get in one room, and
I know.
Yeah,
imagine that shit, dude.
That would
Three
be
of us sitting around a fucking fire.
That would be real fun. That'd be
for sure. So I want to show everybody at home. This is my temple. This is actually the bar downstairs. This is Nicco and I celebrating it up in the tomb, which is our temple dedicated to G'day, the voodoo god of death, dance, and sex. Yeah. So before we get into Nicco's experience coming to my house, because it is an experience. When it's not Halloween weekend, it is an experience coming to my house because, for one, we're weird, and for two,
we're all weird.
Yeah, for sure. But for two, Nicco also got to meet my cohorts. He got to meet not only my family by birth, but also my family by choice. He got to meet Hotel Jesus, which was, I think we'll let him get into all that. But before we get into that stuff, I want to kind of briefly cover Halloween as it relates as a symbol set. And because there's a lot of people that follow us that I think have more of a standard regular belief system. They're Christian, or maybe they're Muslim, or whatever. I think that's more common. So they might be asking, what the fuck are you doing with Halloween? And the answer is that throughout history, Halloween has been celebrated as a time when the veils between the next world and this world are thin. And so it's really easy to get spirits and whatnot to show up. That's why there's ghosts and goblins and all of this stuff associated with it. And what the evil shitbags are doing with that symbolism is they worship the moment of death. They worship the time where their body leaves this reality. And they don't believe that there are other worlds. They don't believe in a lot of that stuff. They believe in, they're basically a death cult who worships the moment of death. Now, that might be weird, being that we just celebrated death, but there's a difference. For us, death is a transition. It is just one life. And if you're a Christian, it's one life leading into a better life, going into heaven or the afterlife or those sorts of things. Whether or not you call that reincarnation, that's reincarnation. You are reborn into another universe, if you will. But the people who want to enslave us and control us, they use those energies to manipulate. So we, this past weekend, had the joy of not only having Nicco, and Nicco, to be clear, Nicco showed up shortly after the official ritual goings on.
I showed up on CPT time, technically, but it
for sure
is because it's a 3-hour drive. Okay, so yeah.
So so he gets in there when we've already dealt with the spirits that we're talking to. And to be clear, we talked to a Simbi spirit named Cincinnatta, who is a flaming serpent, and he was mainly instructing us to basically to boil it down, have trust in God, and believe that God will get us through whatever that is. Now, he gave us some tools in order to kind of focus our minds down on that point. But that was kind of his message. Was he talked about how we can just learn to if Russia decides to get jiggy and do a bunch of stupid shit. Well, how the fuck are we going to stop that? No, we got to rely on God. We got to rely on the spirit of goodness to carry us through. So that was kind of where that he was. And then we talked to Radagade, who is one of the voodoo spirits of death, and he's also the god of death. He's a death, dance, and sex, and so he's all about like transition. He's all about, okay, how can we make what can we do in our lives to make it more enjoyable, to make our life meaningful. So he's a death spirit, but he focuses pretty heavily on making the most of what you're given, the life that you're given. Do what you can to propel that. The final spirit that we talked to, and we talked to 3, was Baron Terry, who generally takes place in when you meet him, he's more often than not in a cemetery. We met him in my temple, so that was unusual, but he is more of a practical advisor. Things like, well, if you want to have, you want to end, let's say, lack of money in your life. If you're trying to acquire, find something that you see that symbolizes being poor, take it out to the graveyard, let death take care of it and kill that shit off, bury it in the graveyard and do that kind of stuff. That's the kind of like real, like the hoodoo kind of stuff. Yeah, just practical magic. Just doing the things that you need in your life to get you through. And to get you some connection to spirit and those kinds of things. So that's kind of where we when Nicco came into the picture. So I want people to know, you had a 3-hour drive to our house. What were you expecting?
None of that shit. Let me tell you. I came, well, as soon as we parked and me and my girl arrived, we pull up and both of your sons are outside. And they're like, "You must be Nicco." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, well, he must have told them, yeah, I am Nicco." So I introduced myself and my girl, and they tell us to go downstairs. We come downstairs, and it's a red and blue. The red was on the light side, the blue was on the left, with a whole bunch of, is it tapestry? What is it called? Like drape?
Yeah, like tapestries, blacklight reflective tapestries.
Yeah, he had a tapestry all over the wall. He had 2 that caught my eye, and there was the like the neon death ones. Those were pretty dope to look at.
For sure.
He had this bar and a whole bunch of what is it? Or altars. He had altars set up around, and I was like, "Oh wow, this is a nice little shindig." And greeted Marcus for the first time.
That was awesome.
It was real fun. It was real fun to be able to see somebody I've been seeing for years, but never really seen in person. So
how did I measure up? I know I was probably a little shorter than you thought I was.
Yeah, you were a lot shorter than I thought. I was like, Marcus might be like, around Chad's height. No, that's not.
I'm a dwarf, dude.
I didn't notice it. I didn't notice it until like in person,
For sure. Yeah, there's a reason why Chad compares me to Gimli on the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. The atmosphere was amazing. Getting to see your people, your sons, your wife, your daughter, Anya. She's actually, she kind of reminded me of my brother Edward. Edward talks like a lot, and they like present a lot of information. And I'm like, you know what? I actually wish I got to talk to her a little bit more, sit
Yeah,
down and talk to, like, everybody else that was around.
sure.
Um, when I'm
It was a party though. At that
Yeah,
point,
it was, it was, but it was a beautiful ambiance. I couldn't deny reject or deny it. And then we go upstairs to see your,
my actual house.
yes, your ritual, enclosed space. It's actually like his, temple is very, very dope. Like, if you're into, any forms of spiritual, I was not expecting that at all. That was
Right.
probably, uh even though we had fun at the party, like, that was probably the most, like, I smiled. I was like, "Holy shit, like, this
Yeah.
is really, really cool."
Yeah.
Um,
So that people know, we have a fully functional temple in the backyard that we
yeah,
actually offer to different people of different faiths in the area. If they need a place to do ritual, we have a place to do ritual. Yeah, Chad's absolutely right. That is exactly what needs to happen. I
um,
didn't even
yeah,
wasn't
and
even paying attention to that stuff.
going around in the temple, I really wish I had more time in it. Like,
Yeah, but it'd be good to get you here in the daytime too.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's gotta be pre-planned as well.
So
But
tell them what it was like walking into the temple.
in the temple, there was a lighthearted energy. You know, of like, if you notice how, like, when you go into rooms, say if like you go into a packed room, it's high energy and you can
Mhm.
feel like all the bodies in the one area, or if you
Mhm.
go into like a completely desolate spot, it's like a void of like energy per se. Uh, I
Yeah,
wish.
tax exemption temple is the thing for
But
sure.
walking in there, there was like a gentle energy to it. Like, when walking past all the shrines and all the different what is altars, I was like, "Oh wow, this is pretty dope." He has one for almost anyone that you can imagine. He doesn't restrict faith, and that's what you shouldn't do. You shouldn't allow yourself to is restrict your comprehension on something that you technically aren't tangible to,
Yeah.
until you bring them down in certain aspects, this, that, and the third.
Sure. Yeah,
Yet,
and so people know we have recognition of Jesus. We have recognition of a variety of different ways that people find God. Because for us, it's more important that they find God rather than what method they're getting to God with.
yeah, people can't omit certain deities and gods due to the fact of their lack of belief. Because when you give something belief, you create things twice: first in your mind,
Hmm.
and then second in reality. So when you give energy to a certain entity, even a movie, for fuck's sake,
Yeah.
uh, you created something. You've created actual tangible element that's been induced into this world. Yet, um, nonetheless, to say that temple was fire, like, absolutely,
Good.
like, immaculate. I really, really aspire to have something like that. Not to mention, um, it's got full like, trees of fruit, like, which is so
Hmm.
fire, which is really dope.
Yeah. Yeah, we have two full size gardens, several fruit trees and bushes, and we have a full on herb garden as well.
Yeah, only if I would have like stopped through in the like earlier time of day, it would have been
Hmm.
really interesting to be able to like see which specific herbs you had and what they look like and things like that.
Hmm.
But,
Yeah, it was
overall,
good stuff.
a great.
What'd you think of the house?
I love your house. I actually am really disappointed. I didn't get to spend more time in your library.
Mm.
Your
Yeah,
library was something that I was really, really attracted to, and I'm like, um, you've
you're
also
always welcome, man.
You've also given me, a little bit of inspiration. I might get into, like, drums, grab a drum
Good.
and, like, work on that because, your acoustic one in the basement is fire.
Yeah,
That one is
which one? The djembe, the bigger like round one, or like
the
flat
box
one?
the flat one that your friend
Yeah,
created, that
yeah. The
one was
Michael
really
made.
dope. That one was really dope,
I
uh,
agree.
and, your overall ambiance of the house was just free flowing, like, there wasn't restriction. You go into somebody's house, and there's certain places that you just feel like, even though people are in there, it's
Hmm.
no, your house was free flowing. It didn't feel jammed or compact. I did feel different like energies walking through your house though.
Oh yeah.
And it's very, very noticeable. If you're like notice, I guess, how you feel in certain aspects or certain areas, but like it's very, very noticeable with the different energies that resonate in your house.
Agreed. Yeah, and you're always welcome to come and check out my library, just so people knows I know I have my fair amount of books, and but the library also contains, it's got some altars in it, stuff like that. But um, so what did you think of the people? You talked about the
Everybody
stuff.
was like genuinely knowledgeable on like a whole bunch of stuff. And it's not to say that they weren't like they couldn't be, but and entertaining. Your son's hilarious. Your sons are hilarious.
Yeah, I know.
The little back and forth banter. I love how gentle it is in the house as well. It's
Yeah.
not overbearing. And I mean, there are, I'm fairly sure, some strict like segments that particular participate in your house,
Mhm.
but genuinely, it's a really, really soothing environment. I wish I, like I said, had more time to talk to people. Everybody was out on their own, doing their own little things, and so I was like,
Mhm.
I did show up late, but I did show up.
You
That's
did, and I gotta give it to Nicco though. You gotta understand, he was dropped into, like, I mean, the first thing he was probably handed was a joint with some of the fire asses weed that we could have.
I was I lit up a bowl, and that was yes, it was most definitely a bowl, and then we smoked the blueberry joint.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
that was tasty.
For sure. And just coming to my house is an experience, like I said, because it, particularly at that time, we're slipping off into party land. So someone had brought mushrooms, and there was some of that going around. There was,
For
so
educational purposes.
for sure, educational to find God. It was awesome. But but one of the things I have to say is I got to meet Nicco's girl, and she impressed me. I was very impressed by her, largely because she, this is Nicco's first time with us too. But she was far less prepared than I'd say Nicco was, and she was a trooper. Going through the unusual thing that is a house full of voodoo anarchists.
Yeah.
Because one of the things Nicco's also not kind of touched on is these are also people who believe that they're self-ruled. This is a house full of anarchists, as
Yeah.
well as a house full
House
of
full of free
strange people.
people.
Yeah, for sure. What did that feel like?
Like I said, it was a gentle aspect to it. There wasn't in certain rhetorics or certain conversations that are held amongst like different households or like parties or situations like that. There were sometimes like certain boundaries people don't cross. There wasn't like boundaries. Like granted, pause, there were boundaries, but there were boundaries that uh didn't feel like uneasy to cross. Like conversation was free flowing, and it was there was barely, if not any, disagreements. And there's
Sure.
nothing wrong with like not or with having disagreements because you know conversation needs to be had. But there was a lot of interesting conversations and a lot of stories being told uh, that actually like put a smile on my face. Like there's not a lot of places you can go to a party and things like that, but you're not guaranteed to go out and smile and have a good time. No, I
Yeah.
genuinely had a good time meeting and, like, congregating, with everybody and the
Cool.
fellowship that was had. Um, it was, like I said, very, very fun,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
wholesome.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the things that I think you hit right there at the end is kind of funny too, because like one of the things that's going on at our house throughout this whole thing that people just don't see, because it's an experience, is like Neo's talking about the bar downstairs with all the black lights and all the like I said, there's also red lights. There's all kinds of weird lighting and weird stuff
Oh,
all
I have
over the
a question.
place. Mhm.
All those chairs, were those chairs for the spirits to sit down in?
No, those are for people, and everybody that was upstairs at one point was downstairs.
Okay, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so yeah, like I said, you had moved because that's actually what I was going to get into, was that that, you know, yes, downstairs we were focused on woo, you know, and experiencing life and doing that kind of thing. But upstairs there were babies, you know, there were moms, you know, breastfeeding a baby, you know, because Katie's, we've got a new daughter named Robin, and so she's upstairs tending to Robin. She's, you know, and Beth's melting into the couch, you know, and so there was the upstairs was, I would say, more of like a feeling of like hominess more than the strangeness of everything else. But so yeah, so. And I wanted to say to Jabari, I bet it does sound like your cousin's house from Haiti, because for sure, and, you know, that there was a lot of that going on. And Jabari, I got to say, if you're ever in Indiana, hit me up in that DM and you can come over and hang out, man. I'd love to hang out with you. But my hope is that, Nicco, that at some point, you can get here and we can just talk, because one of the things that we didn't get as much time as I'd like to do. You all right, man? I think he's having some issues. So anyhow, yeah, it was an interesting time. I'm going to wait for Nicco to give me the thumbs up. I can't hear you. Still can't hear you. What happened, man?
What about now?
Now I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, no, my other mic and headphones just cut out on me, and so
Uh-oh.
That's why I was panicking for like a good 30 minutes. But no, we're all good. We're all good. I'm sorry.
That's okay. What I was saying was that there was a difference between downstairs, where we were doing the party thing, and upstairs that, you know, you might run into Katie nursing a baby, you know.
No, it was like, I was like, baby, what? I was like, everything's so quiet up here. And it actually, going downstairs, the energy was like, the energy was a lot more like a static. Going upstairs, it was a lot more soothing. It was much more of a soothing tone. A lot more lights, I'll say that.
Yeah, it's dark downstairs. Speaking of lights, what'd you think of the back porch?
The back porch was very, very, it was raining and it was dark, but it was from what I saw, and then especially how you showed me how the layout of your garden was or is, very cozy. You throw barbecues back there?
We do. Oh, dude, you've been to the house now. Now you want it. Now you want to come to Father's Day, because Father's Day is us sitting around bullshitting for 2 days and just getting tore down.
Father's Day is right after my birthday, so I'd have to see, but I'd be more than open to.
Yeah, because I think that the thing that we need to hook up next time, and I'm with both you and Chad, you know, we've got to get the three of us together regardless, you know, the magic that we can make. And I'm not talking about the hocus pocus magic. I'm talking about, you know, conversation magic that we can make, just sitting around bullshitting. And can you imagine adding people like Jabari, adding people like, you know, any number of our, like Dutch, or any of the people that are our anarchs, you know, add those people. Imagine adding like, you know, Matt, Hotel Jesus into that mix, or Raven, or one of the other members of my family. That would be a fun conversation, because you're right. One of the things that I find really cool, because what you got to kind of see a part of is what we're building here. All of the people, Chad said, Steph, Tim, Taylor. Yeah. You know, all of the people that are our anarchs would be great to have at any gathering that we were to get together at. But what I was saying was that, you know, and I lost my place, I think, but yeah, sketching canon would be awesome. Oh, I was saying one of the things that when you touched on earlier, might know anything. I mean, think about all the shit Nathan and Matt were talking about. They're talking about construction and how to make shit and all those kinds of things.
And then I'm sorry, the names are blanking, but the one talking about
living as an Amish.
Raven
Was talking about Amish, and it's pretty intriguing to have that kind of perspective on how to live life via scarcity.
Right.
And him breaking down certain ideologies, and I was like, that's pretty dope. Like, to have somebody, I would have never thought I would have met an Amish person like out and about. Granted, you don't know who you meet yet. Having a conversation.
Raven's not Amish, to be clear. He just works for the
Amish. Yeah. But like, having somebody on the inside and being able to see their perspective on that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and so again, would you say that yes, you were completely surrounded most of the time by the imagery of death, but would you say it was a death energy?
No, it wasn't daunting at all. I felt a warm blanket of happiness. Like at the end of the day, it was nothing negative about it. Nothing at all. It was, if I will, you close your eyes and there's a tunnel of light and nothing but warmth around you.
Nice.
And so, it was nothing that they would prescribe to be as harsh or cruel. Nothing. In Oblivion, nothing matters, but nothing is everything. So,
sure,
if you will.
Yeah, and you also got to see my wife. She's way prettier than I deserve, isn't she?
Yes.
Yeah. He got to meet my wife, who she is kind of the caretaker of the group. She makes sure everybody's all right and takes care of everybody.
The mom of the group.
Right, and she does that pretty well. But you got to meet her, and what did you think of Amber? I know she's quiet.
She's quiet. She was quiet. But she was very observant. I know that. Sitting down and observing. I heard her talk like twice, saying hi, but no malice energy. There was nothing negative walking in or out of any sanctuary or a space in your house.
Nice. That's good.
It was absolutely. It was. There was no like heavy pressure. Everything felt light. The air was clean. Tasting it. So like there was.
Although there was a lingering smell of cannabis.
Yeah. Yes. But who don't like the can of peas? You feel me?
For sure.
But it. I will reiterate it 100,000 more times. Like, there was nothing negative, even in the dark space that was quote unquote for death. It wasn't even death. You feel me? It was, and like you said earlier in the podcast, it's like a form of light. Rebirth, and you going into it. That's what it just felt like, was just a rebirth of energy. There was nothing that was draining or daunting or like, eye-opening, other than those dark ass roads that you travel on. Let me tell you, I'm not gonna lie to you. On the way over to Marcus's house, my girlfriend was like, doesn't this look like every horror movie that you've seen before?
The black guy and the what is she, Hispanic? Puerto Rican. Yeah, the Puerto Rican girl going through fucking
and like I'm driving around, I'm like, yeah, it sure does. And then we get over to your house, and she's like, babe, there's a church right there. So I have my running shoes just in case. I was like, Marcus is fine. Marcus is real cool. Other than the dark, desolate roads to get over to his house, it was pretty peaceful. Quiet and serene. Not a lot of noise. That's what I like. There's not a lot of noise, because then with not a lot of noise, there's not a lot of unnecessary activity.
Right. Yeah, and you can also tell, I hope, that our neighbors don't fuck with us. Nicco can tell you, they're right beside me. They're not, maybe, I don't know, 20 feet away.
Yeah.
And they don't fuck with us. They know we're weird. They don't care. They come over to get fucked up on Father's Day.
So. See? I was kind of worried pulling up, because I was like, oh, this guy just turned off his light. Granted, he was going back, and I'm like, Yeah, we can get out the car. Come on, let's just, we can get out the car.
Dude, I got to give both of you credit though for having the cojones to get there and
Yeah.
to because it is weird and and it is unusual what we do and who we are. But I think that's what
usual. What is supposed to be usual in life,
Well, apparently fear and desolation, hatred, all that kind of stuff.
Well,
and
that's pushed upon us, but that's besides the point.
For sure. But yeah, what we do with the energies that we work with as opposed to the shitbags is we do use the energies and we ask for help from the energies that exist in the universe. Call them God, call them angels, call them Loa, whatever the hell you want to call them. But we ask them to make our lives better, to help us to focus down and get closer to God and use the cycles of reality to bring us into a closer harmony with God. And what we do and the I guess the positive magical forces that we work with are designed to get you ever closer to that one God that everyone is truly looking for. And because we realize that death is part of that reality, we recognize that, and frankly, when it's time, uphold that. Without death and decay, the world would be overpacked, and there'd be too much shit, and nothing would ever go away that needs to go away, that is old and tarnished, and should go off into the next world. And so by embracing those things, we understand that that's just part of God's cycle. And because of that awareness, that's in my mind, and there are going to be Christians who will say, or Muslims who will say, nope, you're still a devil worshiper. You're just being deluded. All I got to say is I told you guys the message that came through at least two of the spirits. One of them was more down to earth, but, and both of them would point us towards God at every moment, and did. So if those are demons, they got a weird way of doing some stuff, because they're like, hey,
shit, they're not, all angels aren't the nicest ones at all. What you call it? My girl and I, we watched Legion. And Legion, if anybody hasn't seen it, Archangel Michael comes down to Earth and decides to cut his wings off and become human again and whatever and whatnot. And he comes to protect the Messiah, this baby that needs to be brought into life. But other angels come down and start possessing other people and shit like that. And they are doing God's bidding, but doing God's bidding, yet Archangel Michael still believes in humanity. So it's like, you can't always throw the bone and say, oh yeah, angel's always good. And a demon is not always bad. It's just on who you talk to and what you negotiate, because everything does come with a price, and it depends on what you want to, I guess, lose for certain said things.
Sure. Yeah, my experience has been that that there is a good and bad side to just about anything. And, there are things you can learn. I wouldn't necessarily start there, but there's things you can learn from darker spirits, but but I wouldn't necessarily go there first.
Yeah, you got an easy way in there.
Right. But yeah, sometimes angels are dangerous. Michael, like you mentioned earlier, just in tradition, has a flaming sword. He's a conqueror. So, he can be pretty rough. And if you look at the stuff that's in the Bible, that the angels were, like Sodom and Gomorrah as an example. I mean, that wasn't pleasantry that the angels had to do in that story. And so, yeah, you're right. A lot of it really has to do with the heart of the person. Should you blame God because some Christians praying, doesn't like that you voted for Donald Trump or something and is praying that God smites you? That's black magic. That's what they're doing. But, and they're using God, but that's not God's fault. that they're using him in that manner. In my personal opinion, God be like, you're a dumbass, and be the end of that.
Yeah.
But you know, we should be judging people in my opinion, on their hearts and their goals and where they're going. And for me, you know, what I got to meet this past weekend, again, that I already knew, was that I had a brother up in Chicago who finally made it to our craziness. And,
I'm with the shits.
Yeah, and had a good time. Right. You know, had a time. And
I had a blast. And every moment, I cannot say that I was unappreciative at every moment. I couldn't say that I didn't have a smile on my face. Like it genuinely throughout that whole entire experience, there was a smile, and like I was like, holy shit, this is really dope. This is like a really interesting experience that I will be able to carry on and tell my kids stories about the first time I met Marcus. Like you can't beat that.
For sure. Yeah, and I like that thing, that idea too, because for me, you know, what I'm doing with my kids, what we look to do, like the reason, like when you come in our front door, I don't even know if you went through.
No, I went through the basement.
Yeah, I knew that, but I don't know if you saw the blue light that you come in from
I didn't.
Yeah, that whole area which you didn't see is all done up with blue, and there's a bunch of like decorations. It is designed. We did it on purpose so that when the kids come into the house, they're building a memory. Remember when mom and dad, when you know, they call us Papa and Mama, had owls when you walk in the house, you know, and they learn those things. You know, when you come into our house, our Nicco came into it smelling largely like weed, but often our house smells like cookies. Smells like cinnamon and things like that, because we, you know, the first thing we did is we set the scent in the house with frankincense, because for us that's a cleansing, and so we cleansed our house, and so there's always a little bit of incense smell, and so it's all of that stuff to me is designed to give you an experience. You know, we talked about what, you know, your experience was coming into our house, because we knew anybody didn't know that you were going to have an experience. That's why every time when we've talked about you coming, I've chuckled, because I knew that it was good, because nobody knows. Right. Nobody anticipates what it is. And, but when you came in, that energy just like flowed, but it really was an initiation. This was not only, and this is my mind, this is what I think, and people can take from it what they will, but not only were you getting to meet me, you were getting to meet my gods. You were getting, and my gods and the spirits that I work with looked you over. You know, they were right there. And because again, Nicco showed up half an hour after we had pretty much finished with the events of the evening. And so that stuff was still lingering. And so I got to not only you know, like converse with you and see you go through that. I saw almost immediately that this was going to be a night for you, that something was going to be kicked off.
Yeah, I know. Something was going to be like, hey, Nick, hey, how you doing?
Right. Yep. And so one of the things I also think that is good for you in particular, there's a lot of stuff that's good for me. I like building community. It's part of what I do. But for you, what this also gives you a true understanding of is lots of people say a bunch of shit online. You saw, you know, there's no question. Like if I say, hey, Nicco, I have this, this opinion of, say, a tarot card or something like that, you know, I probably know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know,
very true.
And so that was another thing that I think was, for me, was an interesting thing, because you got to see, you know, you got to see, you know, that I'm not full of shit. We're building a community. We are seriously getting people together.
Absolutely. That's how you do it.
Yeah. And, you know, one of these days, man, something's going to click. And because right now, the biggest problem we have with our community is that, you're in Chicago, and because I'm going to include you. But like Raven lives 2 hours away. He lives in Southern Indiana, and, everybody is spread out. And now there are people that are close. Beth is close. You didn't get to meet my older daughter, Brianna. She's relatively close. She's just started dealing with stuff. Her and her man are basically getting settled into a house and getting their life started. So that's why they weren't here. But you got but there's a few people that are directly around my immediate area. But most of them are far away, and all of them, like if you ask Raven, he'll tell you, my goal is to move up with my dad. We talk regularly about buying the houses around us. And that is a goal, because I'd like to see, imagine Amber and I managed to get a bunch of shit done with us. Imagine what we could do if
with like
Matt lived out.
Some extra hands.
Right.
Yeah.
Imagine
that's something that I aim towards as well. It'd be great to get a little congregated community, and everybody, it don't got to be a gated community, but like everybody has their land, everybody has their space. And if your neighbor needs to borrow some sugar, here you go, neighbor. Like, I got you with sugar and $10 just because I can,
For sure.
So yeah, no, I see the family, I see the building components that you're putting together, and it's nothing but love.
Yeah. Well, that's what happened this weekend, guys, and that's what Halloween is. Because, again, one of the things that I like to talk about is G'day, the particular voodoo spirit that is associated with this time of year. We call our celebration G'day Day, and he is the god of death, dance, and sex. But G'day is an asshole. Asshole. He is a big asshole who will make you uncomfortable left and right, will do everything he can to wake you up, is all about having you find God, and it will do whatever it takes. Will kick you as hard as he can to get there.
I will say I was very calloused, not necessarily going in and like reflecting with some of your deities on my spiritual life. And I guess that one was like a big, like we call it a big old detox, and like everything just flushed out and then flushed back in. And it was a wave of everything just coming back over me. And I'm like, whoa, I'm really missing out on this. Yeah. So yeah, no, it was a blessing of an experience that I cannot disregard.
Yeah, you went through a death. Like I said, it was an initiation.
Yeah.
And but not only is G'day a dick, and he is, I gotta give him full credit for being an asshole. He's the most loving asshole you will ever meet. He is right there with you through the thick and the thin. He is absolute love, who will wrap his arms around you and carry you to God. He is amazing. And that is the kind of love that if we could just get the world to look in that direction, just to look towards God and mimic even the little bits of the adoration that we have for each other, the love that you walked into, Nicco, between all of us. But if we could just get that out into the world a little more, all this other nonsense just fade away and be gone.
Facts. I can't fight that.
For sure. Well, guys, it's been wonderful. I am so happy to have met my brother from Chicago. We had a really good time, and I think that we'll see. I told my family that we'll see Nicco again.
Oh yeah.
And just to be clear, you were a hit. My boys thought you were great.
I'm glad.
Yeah, for sure. Because for those that don't know, everybody thought Nicco was fine, but the people that really got to spend time with Nicco were Amber, my wife, and like he said, she's real quiet, and my boys, Raven and Nathan, and Matt.
Hotel Jesus, a little bit.
That's
of Jesus
right.
From the hotels.
Yeah. Is he not Hotel Jesus though?
Yeah, no, for sure. I see it.
Sure. All right, guys. Well, this has been fun, and largely we just wanted to kind of cover that Nicco and I got to meet each other and talk about a little bit of the Halloween season. Hopefully you can take from what we're talking about and Find a piece of God for yourself. Like Bob Ross said at the beginning, this is your world. Make of it what you want and create happiness. And by the way, stay free.